usually have flags with red, white, and blue on it. Why did Trump choose red and the term "Make America Great Again"? Because white supremacy and racism can be easily confined and normalized by hiding it under a veil of extreme patriotism. And using patriotic colors is a very easy and is a very easy way to conceal a more insidious agenda. There's a reason why white supremacy hate groups, their symbols, their focus is a white supremacy, and why they go after helpless, vulnerable minorities. Because there's something sinister about America. When presidents say that racism, sexism, and homophobia aren't American virtues, I disagree. Being homophobic, queerphobic, sexist, racist, white supremacist, they are American values, but they shouldn't be. Our families, our communities, our government, our religions are built on race, on a raced caste system. White men have always made more. African American men make 85 cents to the dollar compared to white men. And being Hispanic or African American, you have just tripled your odds of being harassed by the police, targeted by authority figures, racially profiled, spend much more time in prison due to being the scapegoat of society. The church has never genuinely apologized for its role in racism. Do you think slavery, racism, and white supremacy would have lasted without support and assistance from organized white man religion? No. These groups, these ideologies only survive when they have powerful backers, people who will march, preach, teach, and publish things that support these horrible virtues of American society. In my opinion, people are now starting to call you unpatriotic or un-American if you're not racist, if you're not white supremacist, if you don't accept and support Trump. I've actually been called un-American because I chose not to vote for Trump. Beware of people that use patriotism to further their political agendas. If anyone uses God, patriotism, or war to further their political and their greed, do not ever vote for these people. The only reason Trump ever sold one Bible or went and talked with one pastor is because he needed to dupe them so he could become president again. People who are not racist, people who care about their community, who are not homophobic or sexist, they don't have the us versus them mentality. They don't shame people for being different. They don't show preferable treatment to people who are not white. They don't focus their attention on hiding and supporting people, groups, and ideologies that harm groups of people. Anyone who supports or stays silent when they're a part of groups that are homophobic and racist are enabling homophobia and racism. You may not be a racist internally, but if you are a part of a group that supports slavery, racism, and sexism, that makes you racist, sexist, and pro-slavery by association. I mean, you stand near a criminal and are known for being friends with the criminal. Most people assume you've done criminal activities too. It's guilt by association. Anyone who remains a member in a group or institution that teaches racism, homophobia, sexism, and discrimination, and does not call out, change, and rebuke these kind of things, are enabling and might as well believe in what is being taught too. Racism needs to stop. There is no time to return to where America was great. Because if one person isn't free and equal, nobody is free and equal. And religion, it's very much like Animal Farm. Everyone is created equal, but not everyone is equal. Men and women are equal, but they have different roles. That's okay if everyone can do every different role regardless of gender stereotype. So when people say men and women are equal in the church, but they have different roles, is a lie. Because men do not do women's roles, and women are not allowed to do men's roles. You're not equal if you believe that the other group does things that is so beneath you, you wouldn't do it. Or if you did do it, you would be deemed less of a man. When it comes to racism, any form of privilege that isn't given to everyone else is racism. And any institution that never takes responsibility, never stops being racist, and still reads and uses a book that supports racism and selling children into slavery as your official religious book is dangerous. And anyone who remains in this racist religion is enabling racism, hate crimes. If you are a member of a religion that teaches that homosexuals are evil, they should die, that they're doing something that is wrong or sick, that group is a hate group. And there probably should be on a list somewhere. Most major Christian denominations or Christian churches are on the American Hate Group Association. And when you research the type of religious organizations that donated to Donald Trump's candidacy for president, most of them are on the American Hate Institution registry. You can never know a candidate until you know who donates money to this candidate. And if the people who support somebody are on an American hate registry and they're a hate group, do not vote for these people. Because if a good person is backed by bad people, that makes them a bad person. You are who you associate and who you accept donations from. I mean, if anybody but Donald Trump, if a decent celebrity accepted money from a hate group, we would call them out. If a celebrity accepted money from people like Harvey Weinstein, we would no longer want to give them a platform anymore. Why is Donald Trump different? Donald Trump, is the stereotypical racist. When you think of a racist, you think of a white man wearing patriotic colors, usually holding a gun with a pickup truck. At least that's how I was raised. I'm not racist, but I do know that everyone has a bias against people, whether it's conscious or not. Everyone is a little bit racist because you can't be human and be completely bias-free. You will always have biases. The difference between a racist and someone who stopped being racist, the racist does not have internal reflection. They don't change. They don't stop. They don't see the damage of what they're doing. Someone who's been a racist stopped or has never been a raging racist acknowledges their bias and chooses not to behave, think, or do what their bias is telling them. That's the difference. Overcoming your bias, educating yourself, keeping your biases in check makes you the opposite of a racist. It makes you a racial ally. Everyone has homophobic tendencies. There is no way you can grow up in a homophobic culture in America and not have some homophobic tendencies. Even if you grew up in a queer home with one or two queer parents, you cannot live in a racist, sexist, homophobic country, city, community, and not have biases. The only people who don't have biases don't exist. Being human means you have bias. That's why when you serve as a jury member, everyone has a bias. The difference is, are you going to use your bias to make the trial not objective? Or are you going to use your bias so it doesn't interfere with your job? And there's something about extreme forms of Christianity that are inherently racist, white supremacist, white privilege. There is nothing not white supremacist about the MAGA group. The more someone wears red, white, and blue, I would definitely bet my life they're probably a racist. Because there's a pattern. Racists love to hide their racism by being the most patriotic people in the room. You look at places that are known for being the most racist. Florida, Texas, Wyoming, most of the Bible Belt states. What do they all have in common? White people are in charge. They limit access to critical race theory. They're extremely backward, high poverty, high STIs, very high sexism, or few opportunities for women to have a chance of being equal with men. That's what these places have in common. They're always legislating more homophobic, more racist, more sexist legislation. Because when you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. The stereotypical racist, sexist white person wants everyone to be oppressed, or else they're not special. Which is living in Florida for 2.5 years and being in Texas 3 times, there is extreme versions of homophobia, racism, and sexism. Beware any leaders or people in positions of power that target minorities, non-white people, and the queer community. Because if you do a simple Google search, you'll find out Hitler persecuted trans people. Hitler killed hundreds of thousands of queer people. Anyone who didn't fit the racist, stereotypical, toxic masculinity or the Aryan chief race, he persecuted. Anyone that is racist, homophobic, or sexist should be avoided. Any leaders that show those qualities have the potential of being Hitler. Good leaders don't discriminate. Good leaders don't allow legislation to discriminate against people. Everyone is equal, but not everyone is equal under the law. And if you're African American and Hispanic, the law is the most racially racist against you. And I didn't even realize how racist my homeschooling curriculum was. The church, the environment is so white supremacy, white privilege. It's horrifying. And it's so insidiously covered in patriotism, biblical values, the family. My family can't even see it. My sister, when I discussed the pictures on church events or church activities, are so racist and offensive. She said, that's not racist. If a white person is wearing an Indian headdress, that is racist. Because you're stereotyping people. Plus, there's no reason for a white person to wear a headdress. When you show Asian people, where the only time an Asian person is represented is by wearing a traditional garment that few people wear, and I would say nobody wears a kimono every day by the masses. They wear just normal clothing. And it's like, racism is so normalized, they don't even see anything wrong with it. The stereotypes, oh, Asians can't drive. I found that's not the case. The nicest, most polite, friendly drivers in Los Angeles are Asian. And stereotypes can be true sometimes. That doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean that the majority of people even fit those stereotypes. But the stereotypes wouldn't have been created if a small portion wasn't the stereotype. Americans are known for being noisy, messy, lazy, and ignorant, especially when they're tourists. And I have to agree, a lot of Americans are noisy, messy, and have no respect for historical places. But there's a lot of Americans that are friendly, respectful, and caring when they're tourists. The problem is, nobody ever talks about the positive stereotypes, or that stereotypes are even wrong. And it is true. I am white. I am a member of the group that does the most terrorist acts: murder, assault, burglary, hate crimes. And we try to villainize groups that on average have 10% less instances of crime than white people do. And yes, white people do 53% of crime. But everyone acts like it's the other people doing the majority, when we are the ones. School shooters. I don't even know a school shooter that wasn't white or Asian. And that's not saying there's anything wrong with whites or Asians. That's not a stereotype, that's a fact. Why is it that 75% of acts of terrorism are done by white supremacists? Why is it that 93% are men who have white or fair skin? That's not a stereotype. That's not being sexist. That's the reality of the environment we live in. And racism will not go away until we get rid of the traditional racist ideologies. We need to hold people accountable. And when I see people who are incredibly patriotic, family values, traditional relationship, religious, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I bet they are racist. And it's not racist to say that. It's reality. And I found that 9 out of 10 people who are extremely patriotic, religious, they tend to be, if they're fair-skinned or white, 9 out of 10 times, they have